Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters podcast, where I'm joined by my wife, Olympic mental performance coach, Steffany-Hanlen, Francey. In these episodes, Steffi and I have a conversation about the different aspects of what we refer to as Mindset Matters, because we believe that for those who are awake, we are living in and through the most impactful time in history. Your view of the world is the filter for how you will experience the evolution and changing dynamics of it. Our intention is to provide you with ideas, nutritious food for thought, and some tools that you can use to help you in being your greatest self and living your best life. Listen in, enjoy. Welcome to Mindset Matters. Steffany, welcome home.
Hi, Han.
So, you're back from Paris. You're back from the Olympics that you didn't participate in. Your athletes didn't participate in, but you brought home a medal. So that's interesting.
It's so crazy. You know what? It's like, how do you even explain my life?
I know. But let's put in a slight correction. You actually didn't bring home a medal, but you're showing your medal. And what was interesting about that, it was your birthday this past weekend. And we had friends over to celebrate your birthday. And of course, to celebrate your journey at the Olympics in Paris and what went down through that whole process. We talked a little bit about it on the last podcast. But what was interesting about it is that you all of a sudden brought this medal out. And it was from the USA team, the, U.S. Olympic Committee, or I don't remember.
U.S. OPC, U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee.
Yes.
And it's called the Order of ECOS.
What is the Order of ECOS?
Well, it is a symbol of coaching excellence, and it is awarded to a person that has had an impact on an athlete who has won a medal. And what happened in 2022 in Beijing is that the athletes that I work with won a silver in the team event and a bronze in the team event, but they were not awarded their medals.
Okay, stop there. Pause. They weren't awarded their medals. Now, back to the party, back to the birthday celebration / return from Olympic celebration. You were gone. I met you in Montreal. We actually did a podcast. Did we do the podcast from Montreal? I've lost all track.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about that. Now, what was interesting about this was that you brought out this medal the other evening, and I went, where the heck did you get this medal? When did you get this medal? And when we kind of worked through it all and you finally got to what it was, this medal had actually been sitting on your shelf for 2.5 years. I was seeing it for the first time in my memory anyways. You may have shown it to me or may not have, but I had no memory of it, which is all to say that why did it sit on your shelf for 2.5 years before you kind of went public with it?
That's a really great question. I think for me, because it wasn't complete. The athletes didn't receive their gold medal because they went because of the doping scandal with the Russians. The young girl that tested positive, unfortunately, her points were removed. What that means is that my team went from silver to gold and then from bronze to silver, and the Russians ended up with a bronze medal. But 2.5 years ago, at the end of 2022, the athletes that I work with decided that myself, Mary France, Patrice, Roman, Sam Chouinard.
Those are all the other coaches.
All the coaches.
Choreographer, technical coaches.
Were honored at that time. And the US OPC, which is the US Olympic Committee, had sent these medals for the athletes to give to us. But because they hadn't received their medals, I think I didn't feel comfortable, or I didn't feel that I was honoring their journey if I would have brought this medal out. So I put it in a drawer.
So if I'm hearing you, really, ultimately, it's hard to celebrate a medal when the medal that you got was about their win, because you are the coach. You're one of the coaches that celebrates the fact that you get this particular medal because you made a difference or you were a contribution to a medal winner, but they hadn't received their medal. So it was like, how could you share your win when it wasn't
really my win. And I think, I don't know if people understand this, but it's, for example, when I was with the Edmonton Oilers for example, in NHL hockey. So we were invited to many Stanley Cup ceremonies where players that have won and they come and they bring the cup to their town or they have a party or whatever. But as a coach at the time in the NHL, similar to being an Olympic coach, I'm not going to touch the cup. It's not a superstition. It's nothing. It's about respect. And it's not that I hid this medal. It was sitting on the shelf. I mean, I just didn't talk about it or show it to anybody. But because it wasn't that I didn't honor it and I wasn't grateful. I think because the athletes hadn't received their medals yet, it didn't feel right for me to either promote or advertise or put it ahead. So when we were in Paris and we got to see them, the American team get their gold and our Japanese team get their silver, and we got to be super fans and be it, just at the boards, and so grateful. And then that night at USA House. So I don't know if you know about the Olympics. So of course there's Canada House, USA House, Japan House. They have all these houses, France House. But that night we were invited to USA House. And I just thought it was about really the athletes being able to celebrate the fact that they finally got their medal. Their families were there, their mom, their dad, their sisters, sister-in-law, brothers, like nieces, nephews, everybody, the VIPs got to be there. And us as the coaches, we were like, yay, finally you get your medals, right? So we were at the side of the stage and waiting for them to receive their gold medals and get to be interviewed by, the TV stations and all the broadcasters. And then all of a sudden, the host goes, and it's time for the Order of Ecos. And Mary France, Patrice, and I were like, cool.
What? Yeah.
And then they called us up on stage.
That's so fantastic. But let's clear something up just for somebody who's listening that doesn't necessarily understand what the hell we're talking about. So 2.5 years ago at the 2022 Winter Olympics, you have a skating team, as in ice dance. So that's all to say that's when the medals could not be awarded because of the doping scandal. Now in 2024, with Summer Olympics, that's when the Olympic Committee said this would be a perfect time to award those medals to the athletes and honor the athletes. So that's bringing that whole story together, and hopefully we've made that clear and haven't stepped over it. I think it's important to understand so that you're at the U.S. House where the athletes are, they're celebrating. Olympic Committee says that'd be a perfect spot to give the 2022 Olympic medals to the athletes. So there you go. You're in there. They call up the athletes. They present the athletes, and now they then stand up and say, "Now let's call up the Ecos winners or the Ecos medal, however they announce that, right?" And then that's when you and Patrick Marie were standing there going, "Okay." And then some, not knowing that it was you that they were going to be calling, you thought it was some other thing, and it turns out it was you.
Or somebody important in their life, because
Yep.
In a sense, we'd already received the actual medal. So the medal was on the shelf in the drawer. So honestly, when we saw Nathan Chen bring up his mom and we're so emotional, it was amazing. And all of a sudden they call up Madison Chalk, Evan Bates, Madison Hubble, and Zachary Donahue, and they were going to come up individually. But the four of them stood up together. And to prepare for the Olympic Games, and I knew they were going to be in the team event together, we created a concept called the Power of Four. And what that meant is that, yes, they're competing against each other, but how do we bring their energy together so that it becomes more powerful for them to bring their energy into the competition together? So we created a concept called the Power of Four and a little WhatsApp group and a lot of motivational stuff and, working through all this stuff. And then they stood up, the four of them together on stage at USA House in front of thousands of people, in front of celebrities and basketball players and all these people. And they stood up together as the Power of Four and called Marie France, Patrice, and myself up on stage.
That made your medal real.
That's a really good point. It made the medal real. And because as a coach, I think about putting the athlete first. And I always say to them, if I'm going to be made responsible for your success, you also have to make me responsible for your failure, because This is about you. I'm not going to be the person on the podium with you receiving the medal around your neck. And then all of a sudden, this medal became real.
Mm-hmm.
And as an Olympic medal, my name is going to go down in the history books as an Olympic coach
Mm-hmm.
because of that moment. And I could own it finally. And I think from we talk about this a lot, Hun, in our coaching, is that there is the power of completion. And I'm not going to take credit for something that's not complete for the person that I'm supporting. And it never occurred to me until my birthday this weekend when friends and family were celebrating the fact that my clients and my athletes, who I'm so proud of, finally received their medal. And then it went, bing, I have a medal.
You have a medal.
And I brought it out and everybody looked at it and they're like, oh my God, this has been sitting there for 2.5 years and you didn't bring it out. You didn't tell us.
They didn't say that. No, I said that. Like I said, where the hell did you get that medal from? Like, why haven't I seen this before? And that I totally get the completion, and you can't really, until your athletes celebrate it, you can't celebrate it because it's really, they go together. Totally off, but I understand it. Here, let me just share a really old story with you. So my only job that I ever had, and this was back in 1977. Anyways, I started, the only job I had, and I share the story because it's similar I get it. And that was, at some point along the way, I got a promotion, which meant that I was expected to show up in a suit and tie, or some form of a suit and tie back then. And at the end of the day, I refused to do that until they actually made an announcement. It was a corporation. There was, it's a $1 billion company. The division in Alberta had about 300 people working there. So it wasn't big, but it wasn't small. And I just could not bring myself to show up in a suit and tie until they had officially announced it, although the job started and it was like 2 weeks before they officially announced it. But I just would not show up because it didn't feel real until it was real, until it was acknowledged by my boss and the management team, his boss, etc. And then that was okay. So that was what it felt like for me. It was like, no, I can't really do this. I can't own this until it's acknowledged. And that really is you getting the medal 2.5 years ago. How can you really own it until it's acknowledged? And you can't be acknowledged until your athletes are officially acknowledged. And they were kind of in limbo, although they knew at some point. And then it took this long before the Olympic Committee laid it all out. So hopefully that's interesting to our listeners. What'd you learn along the way? Like, it was about completion. We've talked about that many times. What else did you learn while you were now in reflection of how this all unfolded?
Yeah, a lot has shown up is that, I have to reconnect and always get grounded to my why. And I think about why I do this, why I do my coaching, why we do our shift program, why we do our think tank and Champion's Journey, is that when you get to the point where, for me, I can only speak for myself, is that I'm not coming from my ego anymore. It's really about how do we support others really, stepping into their brilliance, winning and being the best that they can be. And I get to be the team behind the team and part of the team behind the team behind the team. This was a actual manifestation of that. Because nobody, even our friends, like we had 20, 25 friends here that didn't know that I had an Olympic medal. And they celebrated in that moment because I was able to celebrate the completion and the groundedness. Is that, you think about a parent, when your child wins a medal or your child wins a Stanley Cup, it's not about you. How many times have we been to a Stanley Cup celebration and the parents just stand back and go, this is all you. This is all you, dude.
Mm-hmm. And they're proud.
They're so proud, but there's also sometimes that a parent will step in front and go, yeah, it's because of me.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of you, and I celebrate your win. And because I've over the years got to know the athletes and then hang out in Montreal with more, it is certainly a fun journey to work with some high level athletes and a team.
I have not put this around my neck yet, right?
Yeah.
Can I do it?
So you're going to do that now? Is that the idea? Go ahead. Cool. So,
first time around my neck.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And we are also, if you're listening just to the audio, then we have a picture posted on the Everyday Millionaire Facebook page. So that is something that you can go check out the medal. And there was a short video of Steffany and Patrice and Marie-France on stage with the U.S. Team receiving and being acknowledged for their role in all of that gold. And it's U.S., it's a big deal. And you've got, how many teams do you work with? 14 or something like that from all over the world.
All over the world.
This happened to be the U.S.
U.S., Spain, France, Armenia, Georgia, Lithuania. Like, it's all over the world. But you know what? We're all one. And I think the fact that this acknowledgement with the U.S., I mean, it was amazing, because what I'm seeing is the attention to detail, and the fact that they go and acknowledge the team behind the team is really, really special. And I just want to thank U.S. Figure Skating, USOPC for this award. Maddie Chalk, Evan Bates, Maddie Hubble, Zachary Donahue. Like, I didn't know when I started that it was going to end up with some kind of medal around my neck. But I know as a coach, there's few and far between moments where we get to be acknowledged publicly, because that's not why I do it. That's not why you do it.
Well, it's interesting too that, as much as we celebrate this particular win, there's a part of it that, if you're listening to this, that around the model is that we, of course, are immersed in the world of athletics and high performance. And this is really, we literally, and we do it differently because we're literally in it. We're not comparing it. We often see programs that, corporate programs, particularly, that we've observed over the years, where everybody's talking about this football team or that team, the way they do it, and they wrap athletics around it, but they're not necessarily in it. So they're theorists in terms of that. And I'm not making any of that wrong, but really it does make a difference when you've actually been surrounded by high performance athletes and see the trials and tribulations they go through, that they are mere mortals that are doing some really incredible things. And it takes a team of people to support an individual or two in performing at that particular level. And when you apply that same theory to a business team or to a team of individuals who have a collective outcome that they're working backwards from, it really is a game changer. And so part of that, even when we're doing in the past where we've done our think tank programs and we have couples in the room, it really is a collective of the couple and their family. And we talk about mission statements, and we talk about operating and clarity equals velocity and communication and relationship and all the things that we talk about. But ultimately, behind all of that, the underlying operating system, if you will, is taken from the actual operating system, the proven system for having top performing athletes be able to be on the podium at some point, going through the process of learning and discovering how to work with team, how to be their best selves, how to get out of their own way. And we take that and really we apply it to the clients that we work with. So a little bit of a long-winded way of just acknowledging that you have now 30 years, 25 years of experience in this space, as do I, in terms of supporting not just athletes, but business owners and individuals. And that's the methodology we use. So it's a little bit of a shameless plug around our coaching programs, because we're launching one again in early October. More details to come on that. So through all of this, is there something that you would share with a listener that would say, okay, wherever you are on your journey, we know that you're going to face adversity. Imagine athletes spending their lifetime going for gold and then literally not knowing whether they are going to be acknowledged for a win or not, regardless of the fact that it was, in this case, I think, team event that went off the rails. But ultimately, that's an adversity that they have to deal with. It's an incompletion given the years and years of hard work, and then not knowing and not knowing and not knowing, and then finding out and still having to wait to be acknowledged and to go through this celebration. And that is the completion part of the journey. because that is an end result that you're working backwards from, but it's not complete till it's complete. So,
well, think about life. Like, we never know. We never know. Like, are we going to graduate? Are we going to get married? Is our children going to be healthy? We don't know until we know. And if we celebrate too soon, or if we pretend we know and we don't really know, I think that's a setup. It's a setup to failure. And then it really challenges our self-worth, and it challenges our self-esteem. I think if anything I can bring forward is to be present to what is in the moment. Like, yes, I was present when I was given the medal in September of 2022, but because they didn't have their medal, I wasn't going to step over the fact that it's like a parent or a business owner or whatever. Like, you don't step over the successes.
they were not complete.
They weren't complete. So there was no reason for me to step over they're the ones that did the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was prepared to delay the gratification. I think that's the biggest thing. And that's why it hit me so hard. That little video, I like when I did my little speech, I could hear my voice like quiver, is because we delayed all of our gratification for 2.5 years for them to get their medal. And I think the biggest thing is in any kind of journey is that if you're willing to delay gratification and you're willing to see the bigger picture and not need the dopamine hit in the moment, the win is so much more fulfilling. It's more powerful. And I think it's more real.
Yeah.
And I think with the world that it is right now, and social media and, AI and all that stuff, is to navigate and to find what's real. And I think when on Sunday or Saturday, when all our friends were here, and I ran into the office and, oh my God, I have a medal. And I wanted to share it with them because the athletes that I work with finally got their medal. And it's time for me to celebrate. That was the delayed gratification. And it was so worth it because my mom taught me about the marshmallow test.
I would always fail the marshmallow test. So there's something that, I'm going to answer a question before it gets asked again, because I've been asked many times. And that is, Patrick, did you go to Paris with Steffany? No. Why not? So it is a little bit complicated, but let me just share a couple things with you. Number one, you weren't going to Paris till last minute. I also had a number of things in my calendar. Having said all that, somebody recently, like just the other day, asked me, so why do you travel with Steffany on a regular basis? Why don't you go on trips with her? Why aren't you doing all that? And, I often joke that I just live my life vicariously through you because you're the world traveler. But ultimately, there's a fundamental that I think people don't necessarily understand. They would have no reason to know. And that is when you're there, you're working. So when you going to Paris, for example, it's just some like random guy that's hanging out with you, husband or not. There is security, there's accreditation, there is the right to go here and the not right go there. And then all of a sudden I become this loose piece of baggage that you go, okay, well, I don't got any more pockets left for you. And who's this guy with you again? Oh, well, he's my husband. Okay, well, where's his accreditation? So you're working. I just become a distraction because you'll worry about me and I'll become an energy leak. And so that's a kind of the Coles notes of it. And could we make it work? Probably, because Steffany can make anything work. But I also look at it and I look at it from a place of, where do I get to hold space for Steffany? Where do I get to make sure that the fort is held at home, and dogs and property and all the things that we've got going on in business, and still life goes on when she's on the road. And, ultimately we are able to manage it that when I'm on the road, I'm working, and we try not to cross paths so that she's on the road and I'm on the road at the same time, although that does occasionally happen and we have ways of working around that. But ultimately, people often ask, well, why don't you travel with her? And, that's really the reason, because it's not as simple as me getting on an airplane with her and then following her around and being, the guy that carries her baggage. It really is that I can't necessarily get into the events. I can't go behind the scenes with the coaches because I'm not a coach. I don't have accreditation. Olympic committees is very tight security. There's a lot of protocol that goes on. So that's just the explanation of why I don't. And people often ask me that question. So I thought I would answer it right now. Anything you want to add to that?
No, it's true. And I think it's frustrating for me because with my colleagues, they get to travel with their spouses because they're either in the game or accredited.
Coaches. Yeah.
Right. But I think what I've really learned too, Hun, about you is that you also honor the fact that I have my own swim lane. I have this really weird, unique coaching status that is pretty weird. And, it's not normal. And the fact that you honor that and and I do with you, like when you do your thing. And I think what we need to talk about in one of our next podcasts is relationship on that regard. Is that how do you honor and support each other doing your thing and not need to step into each other's sandbox in a way that maybe doesn't serve. I mean, a couple of times you've come with me to Worlds, or you've come to and you've been fully included, and you're such a big part of helping all of my clients with their business stuff. And like, think about all the athletes that invest in real estate because of you. But we stay in our swim lanes. Like, you don't come into my world and try to, be with me in that level. And I don't come into your world and try to be with you at that level. I think there's a level of respect and understanding that I hope we can share with people, with our clients, and with each other.
Yeah, if we get a message out to people at all, is this the ability to hold space, to be and feel a part of it. I do feel a part of it. So there's an interesting component of it for me, is that I know that you can't do what you do without the foundation and support that I'm able to provide you on the home front, and the foundation that we've built in our businesses, and the foundation that we built in the people that support us, and all of the things that go. It is a little bit like playing chess sometimes. And I get to be a part of that. So I do feel part of your success, and I'm happy and I'm proud of you. And I'm also very proud of the fact that we have the type of relationship and we're able to make these things work because I am really committed to your success. And that's really all that matters. And therefore, I don't ever feel excluded. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, he gets to go travel the world and I don't have any of those thoughts at all. And the reason I bring it up is I've had these conversations with individuals who are kind of looking at it going, it's just so weird that she travels the world and you don't go with her. And I go, no, it's not weird. But anyways, I'm sure for some, and from some people's perspectives, that would seem a little odd, but it's not to us. It's totally normal. And I'm very, very happy to support Steffany on her journey. And I'm just really happy for you and for Patch and Marie and for your athletes. And I get to, like I say, live my life vicariously. And hey, listen, just the ripple effect is kind of fun. So I'm okay with all of it. So that's all I got. Any final words of wisdom before we part?
Well, you saying all of that is very humbling for me, because you've always said that, like, we can only be us because we support the shit out of each other to be the best we can be and to live our best lives. And we don't climb on top of each other with ego. And I think 30 years in, or however long we've been together, I just hope that this translates for young couples, or for couples that go, you know what, how do you live your best life and support the partner that you've chosen to live their best life? And if that's what we're the stand for, hun, then I'm good with that.
Beautiful. And on that note, next podcast, we're talking relationship. Tune in. Head on over to the Everyday Millionaire podcast Facebook page, and you can see, comment, whatever you like to do. And check out Steffany's medal. We're very happy for her celebration. Congratulations. Thanks, Steffany.
Thanks, son. That was fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you found value in the podcast, please take the time to rate and review and share with others. Share with your friends. As it is my goal to always improve and to provide the highest value for you, the listener. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions you'd like answered, please email me at ceo@reincanada.com. That's ceo@reincanada.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Patrick out.